we're gonna have a serious talk about Warzone and the problem with the game currently, because a lot of people are just leaving the game. We have Call of Duty in general. I mean, there's a lot of different topics we'll talk about. Was the player counts, the lack of polish. I think that this was planned and they knew what was happening early on. And I think there's a lot of other factors that tie into it. The category that Call of Duty's in is super competitive right now, which we'll also talk about. And I think that there's a lot of these issues that domino up, and it kind of goes back to that saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think that's kind of where COD has gotten to with Warzone in the 5 years of different things. So when it comes to player count, it's still right around the same numbers it was last year, but the number from launch to now is a significant drop off. It launched with 160,000 players. That includes Black Ops 6 multiplayer, which is incredibly popular with the prestige system, zombies coming in hot, multiplayer having a ton of things, even though the map selection, whatever you think of multiplayer, it is what it is. And then Warzone integration happened, and it's basically lost players since then. Still right around 100K concurrent on average, and with a peak of 191K in the past 30 days, which is still in line with last year and the year before. It's kind of a consistent pattern, but that shouldn't really be the case if the game is in a good spot, right? It'll continue to lose players until they figure it out, and then they got to put a lot of marketing behind it. That's what we saw with Black Ops 6 being highly marketed, well marketed, pretty much everywhere. The Replacer was doing an ad for something at every time, no matter where you look, and that contributed to the launch success of Black Ops 6. And then it was kind of good at launch and prestige. It offered systems that players wanted. But once we get into Warzone, it showed a lot of issues. So we got the lack of polish, where we got all the bugs, we got the server issues, and I did a full video talking about 99 problems, but the store ain't one. That still holds true. They didn't fix like 90% of those issues, and I get that it's the holiday. Hopefully you guys had a good holiday. We got New Year's in a few days or whatever the case is. But regardless of that, some of these issues, I feel like they were aware of this, and they just let them fester. And as we go deeper, you hopefully, maybe you'll see my side of it, and you'll let me know if you guys agree or disagree that they already knew that this was going to be pretty bad integration. The next thing that comes up is their crying wolf. If anybody's familiar with that story, essentially you sell the same lie over and over, people stop believing you. And I think that's kind of happened in multiple different ways with Ricochet. There's multiple things they've said. They're like, oh, we got this handling on cheaters. Still tons of cheaters in the game, and there's probably more cheaters right now than I've pretty much ever seen, even peak Verdansk. You have a lot of streamers that are playing ranked right now, and probably yourself, but they actually have hacker trackers, and they're on average running into 1 to 2 hackers per match, which is kind of crazy. I don't think it's ever been at that volume. And then their lies or lack of truth when it comes to the reporting system, saying, oh, your reporting players won't cause a shadow ban, which we've seen several instances of it. Even though they've said this, no one believes it. And that just leads to more trust issues. And on top of that, we have systems that overlay with the trust issues, so it gets even more compounded. Engagement optimized matchmaking, where it's almost going out of way to stack the odds to specific outcomes. Whether you have favorable outcomes or unfavorable outcomes, it does different things to try and min-max your play time. So if you regularly play 3 hours, their goal is to have you play 5. If you play 5, it wants you to play 7. If for some reason your play time's lowering, they're going to go out of their way to stack the deck to give you a more enjoyable experience for your individual play style. But then that also gets stacked on. We do these double XP events. Weapon leveling is incredibly slow in Warzone. So luckily the weapon meta hasn't really shifted, and none of the new weapons have been hard meta right off the bat. But they have a really slow leveling system. So people are really paying close attention to this. And I know Exclusive Ace did a video kind of breaking down how the XP works, and I trust his work. So I believe that, hey, it is probably accurate, but it's pretty sad that it's so convoluted and the menu just doesn't look right. So it doesn't look like it tracks properly, no matter how you look at it. And it ends up really coming down to a lack of trust. If other things were working and we did have a trust in these certain systems, and we didn't feel like we were getting played by engagement optimized matchmaking and some of the other issues when related to cheating and Ricochet, then we would be less like the XP issue would be less of an issue. And then it comes down to this next one, which is the AI art or voice issue that they currently have within Call of Duty. There was some voice drama that I'm not really sure the nuance of it. I think Raffle Waffles covered it. I saw him tweeting about it. I think he did a video with the whiteboard or something. If you're more interested, go ahead and check that out. But realistically, what it came down to is there were some disagreements, contract agreements about using AI voices or something like that. And they basically cut off all their voice actors, went back in and changed some of the AI voice, which is kind of unfortunate if you're paying people to, do voice acting, which is an actual skill. And then to compound on that, then we got all the digital stuff where they're saying, hey, look at all this AI art. We got the hand with an extra finger, so much so that no matter what, even if COD posts a legitimately photoshopped thing that just somebody made, they end up, people are like, oh, get this AI crap out of my face. And I'm like, that's kind of funny too, because somebody who actually made it's probably just laughing like, oh, you thought AI made that? Not really a high level of difficulty to make. So they went through out of their way to do that. So it is kind of funny, because all those things just stack on top of each other and create a lot of distrust within the company. And on top of this, if you're one of the people that get shadow banned, now you're even more pissed off because you can't even play the game you want to play. Then as soon as the shadow ban's gone, you get to play, you run into cheaters, and it's like a never-ending cycle of abuse, I guess, the COD players go with. And I think part of that comes down to integration fatigue as well. Even if all these issues weren't issues, integration fatigue is still a thing because of the slower leveling. I don't think people are really a fan of having to feel like they start over every single year. Obviously, it's great for an influx of new players. They feel like not everyone has a step ahead of them. But COD players who play regularly every single year, they have to go out of their way to make sure they're leveling up their guns and start back from square one. Luckily, if you had Black Ops 6, played zombies or multiplayer, you got to level up some of your guns. You got to reach prestige or whatever. And then you kind of had all your perks and you could create a class. And it's super streamlined for those people and they want to incentivize you to buy the game. But anyone already playing the game that's a free-to-play player, they just kind of get penalized or encouraged to buy items from the shop, which is also kind of a terrible thing. And going back to what I originally was saying is I think they were aware that these would all be issues. A lot of these things would be issues. And I think they already had a timeline on when they were going to do it. Normally when I think they've done projects, it feels like the timeline was a specific date. Like, oh, we're going to do this and it's going to be done by this date. That's what we're bookmarking. Every integration, it's felt that way. And we've always had these timetables where we know, oh, they want to do all this by this date. And that's normally what ends up happening every single year. And when they announced Warzone would be released like 3 weeks earlier than we expected, it kind of threw that out the window. Initially we thought, hey, you know what? Maybe they're ahead of schedule. This can be an actual W. But when it actually came out, it actually showed that, you know, they were nowhere near ahead of schedule. Obviously, there's a lot of fundamental things that are good, but the stack of issues is so tall that it's really hard to even see the good or experience the good or enjoy the good in any meaningful way. So because of that, I feel like they knew that they were going to have these issues because they released it early instead of like postponing it to December 6th, which would have been a much better date to like leave that off. But I think they already knew, oh, we're going to have deals, issues, we're going to have to deal with it. Somebody sold them on this. I have no clue. But it's just one of those things where it adds up and it's like, ugh. And the part that makes me think that this was the case, because there was basically zero marketing. Almost every integration, we've had some kind of like hype beast moments where they were leading up to the integration. No matter which one it was, there was some kind of hype around the integration. This one, it felt like a little bit lackluster. They didn't really give us the date early. There was no build up. So I think they didn't really care about launching that part, because I think that they're going to put all their eggs into one basket when it comes to Verdansk. And by no means will Verdansk save the game. I know there's a lot of positives that come back with Verdansk, the players. If the other issues are still stacking up, you're still going to end up with the 99 problems, right, that we were talking about. Realistically, whenever they're going to release Verdansk, which I'm guessing March 12th-ish, that's kind of where the anniversary is on March 10th, would be the 5-year anniversary of Warzone. And I think that would be an ideal time. So maybe they're thinking, hey, you know, we got 3 months. If we burn players, that's fine. We're going to go hardcore into marketing like we did with Black Ops 6. We're going to get a huge influx in players. Everyone's going to tell their friends, whatever. It seems like a little bit of an odd strategy for me, especially when they could have delayed the game. So I think for a lot of people, it's kind of like goes back to what I was saying. It's like that final straw, and it could be the matchmaking just was too much, the hackers, the shadow banning, the bugs, the server issues, the desync, the lag compensation, whatever it is. One of those things broke the camel's back, and it wouldn't be so bad if it was like one issue or the other, but when it's like 10 and then you could stack on another 10 and then you could figure out another 10. Like when I made my video about that, it was a list of like 35 items, and the comment section were filled with about dozens others, a couple dozen others where I didn't even mention in the video. And right now for COD, it's kind of a wonky situation because the category is super competitive. Maybe not for all of you because it depends on the game. I know some people are really into Delta Force. They got their early access, but that's only on PC, at least until they get early access next year. Marvel Rivals is coming out hot. I'm not really a fan of Overwatch or third person, so it doesn't really vibe with me, but I know a lot of people are loving the hell out of that game. And then we also have Path of Exile, which is I've been playing. They had part 2. I have almost 200 hours in the game, which is a lot if you know when the game came out. And then the Fortnite, OG Fortnite, they had the first person. They have a bunch of different modes for Fortnite, and Fortnite's been killing it. But again, it's kind of its own thing. They're competing with basically everyone and nobody at the same time. When you have all those issues, and then you have the competition in gaming, and then all the problems in the game exist, except for the store always seems to work. And then if it doesn't work, they fix it instantaneously. I know it's way more complicated to fix an in-game bug that you have to replicate than the store, but it's just a bad look. It goes back to kind of what I was talking about earlier. It's like when they did the thing with the mist, with the blood mist, when you shoot somebody, they said, oh, it's a erroneous hit marker or whatever the heck they said. They were straight on gaslighting, had no business making those tweets or posts, and you just continue to lose trust. So it is what it is at the end of the day. I think it's kind of in a bad state. Luckily, there's plenty of other games to play. I would encourage you to play those until they fix the game. Otherwise, you're just beating your head against the wall. I know there's plenty of streamers that are doing that. They hate the game every second of it, but then they'll stream 10 hours a day. Nuts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It has been a couple weeks. Hopefully it won't be too long for the next one. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.